2025, time scheduled for the McMinnville Water and Light Commission meeting, and I will call this meeting to order. Clerk Trina McManus, will you please do a roll call?
Yes, Mayor Morris.
Here.
Commissioner Tankersley is excused this evening. Commissioner Elmer.
Here.
Commissioner Garvin.
Here.
And Commissioner Macy Baker is also excused.
Right, thank you. So at 4 o'clock, the time scheduled to open a public hearing on McMinnville electric rates and charges. As mayor, I am the presiding officer and I will conduct the hearing, impose reasonable time limits on participants, and receive documents and reports into the hearing record. At today's hearing, the commission expects to begin with a staff report. During the staff report, I may recognize other members of the commission to ask questions of staff. After the staff report, interested parties will be invited to ask questions. Before stating your question, please state your name and address for the record. Because we are operating in a hybrid digital format on Zoom, I will now provide an overview of some important procedural items. If you're watching on YouTube, you will need to go to the Zoom meeting as provided in the published notices and on the website in order to join the meeting. Anyone joining the Zoom meeting is automatically set to be on mute and to have their video display hidden. At the appropriate times during the meeting, I will ask those in Zoom whether they would like to speak. When this occurs, please select the raise your hand option from your device. When you have selected raise hand, the staff person managing the meeting will know that you would like to ask a question. I will give adequate time at these points during the meeting for questions of staff. If you're having difficulty using the raise hand feature, you may also use the chat feature to type that you would like to speak. The chat feature will be monitored during the meeting. If using the chat feature, please note your name and address and confirm that you wish to ask a question of staff about electric rates. If you are calling in via a phone and do not have access to the Zoom meeting video and toolbar, please wait until I ask if there is anyone on the phone who would like to ask a question. I will make sure that everyone who wants to participate in the public hearing has the opportunity to do so. After the staff report, the commission anticipates accepting materials into the hearing record and continuing the hearing to August 19th, 2025 at 5 p.m. For additional comments of interested parties, a final staff report, deliberations of the commission, and adoption of new rates and schedules. To begin, I understand that our utility rate analyst, Ms. Trina McManus, will begin the staff presentation and introduce our rate consultant. Do you want me to read the agenda as well, Trina?
No,
okay.
That's fine. Thank you. Good afternoon. In March of this year, McMinnville Water and Light contracted with Utility Financial Solutions to conduct an electric cost of service study. McMinnville Water and Light typically does electric cost of service updates with BPA rate cases, which usually occur every 2 years. This year, for this rate case, which is called BP 26, we're doing a 3-year cycle to align with the expiration of the current BPA 20-year contracts that continue until September 30th of 2028. So this rate case will go into effect this year on October 1st, 2025. Staff has been working closely with UFS over the last few months to provide data for the cost of service model and give feedback. Mr. Mark Beauchamp, president of UFS, is here with us tonight on Zoom and is prepared to share the results of the cost of service analysis with the commission. Mark, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and present the results of the cost of service study, as well as the financial projection. And we've been doing work with McMinnville for over 12 years, I believe. And in general, you're a financially stable utility. You continually reinvest in your system. The age of your infrastructure is only 42%, which a system around the country averages about 50%. That means that you're continuously reinvested. You don't have any debt. You're a no debt utility, where most utilities such as McMinnville carry between 30 and 40% debt compared to assets. You're very financially stable. However, in the last few years, as everybody's aware of, we've seen a lot of changes in electric costs. You go back to 2023, The average increase in electric infrastructure costs went up about 15%. And then again in 2024, they went up on average about 22%. And of course, that's causing utilities around the country to look at the rates to make sure they're properly accounting for those additional costs. And McMinnville's had a history of having small periodic adjustments. And because of that, you're in a very good position to absorb a certain amount of these rate increases, but some of it has to be passed through. And what I'm going to go through, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everybody see my screen? Okay, good. What I'm going to go through is basically three things, three areas. The first one is what we call a long-term financial projection, where we look over the next 5 years. Our models really go out like 20, 30 years into the future, but we only vet the first 5. And what we do is we look at the projected revenues under the existing rates, what the expenses are and what the projected changes in expenses are projected to be, as well as power supply costs, what your capital improvement program is. And we look at the financial results looking forward, and we compare them to certain key financial targets. I mentioned 2 of them, which is the age of the infrastructure, which is new, and the debt to equity ratio, which you have no debt. We also look at things like, do you have adequate cash reserves? And what is what we call an upper boundary or a target operating income? And I'll get into explaining that as we go through this slide deck. Once that process is completed, we then do what's called a cost of service study. And a cost of service study looks at how much it costs to provide service to each class. In other words, how much of the distribution infrastructure is constructed to serve residential or industrial or commercial? How much are they consuming as far as power supply costs from BPA? And we then identify how much it costs to provide service to each class. We compare it to the projected revenues to look at how much each rate class theoretically should change to meet their cost of service requirements. Now, with that said, there isn't a utility in the country that charges 100% cost of service based rates. It's virtually impossible because your costs are always changing. But what it does for us is it gives us direction on how we need to migrate the rates over time that accomplishes 2 things. One, keeps the utility financially stable, but by moving slowly, minimizes as much as possible rate impacts on customers. And you're going to see as part of this what we're proposing for a rate design, and where we take the results of the study and the financial projection, and we design the rates to meet the financial requirements and to move each class closer to the cost of service. And the key thing for today is to get input from the board on these rate designs that we're presenting, to see if you agree with our assessment being the rate track that we have over the next 3 years, how we are planning on implementing or moving toward the cost of service results in the rate design process. So with that, I want to just say that as I go through this modeling, if there's any questions throughout, please stop me and ask me those questions as I'm going through. I mentioned there were 3 key financial targets that we look at. The first one is debt coverage ratio, which most utilities, that's really one of the key or main drivers for rate adjustments. But in your situation, you don't have any debt. We then look at the minimum level of cash reserves, not the targeted, but the minimum. because we want to make sure that the utility has adequate cash and reserves to be able to pay its bills in a timely fashion, as well as fund its capital improvement program. And then, so we have to set rates high enough to achieve those minimum cash reserve levels. The upper boundary is what we call an optimal operating income target. And you probably think to yourself, we're a non-for-profit utility. Why are you saying we need to make money? Well, we have to make money actually to break even. And the reason for that is because when we put assets in service, I always use the example of $1 million asset with a 20-year life. And you put that $1 million asset in service, you start depreciating it. And over the next 20 years, you fund $1 million of replacement costs of that infrastructure. But every year, the replacement cost of that asset is going up. And so what the target operating income represents is the inflationary increase in the replacement cost of the infrastructure. That becomes, in a sense, our upper boundary. So it's not an exact science to identify revenue requirements. All we can do is identify the ranges that we need to keep your financials in. Now, as far as cash reserves, I mentioned some of the things that influence the need for cash. One of them is it's called a working capital lag, which is the timing difference between when you pay bills and get the money from customers. To give you an example, you may go all through the month of January paying for labor, materials, supplies. At the end of the month, theoretically, you read all the meters, you send the bills out to customers the first week of February. You don't get that money until the second or third week of March. So there's that timing difference when you paid it in January and the March time when you get the money back. So we quantify that working capital lag. We also look at the capital improvement program and how much is needed to fund the capital improvement program that you have planned and any debt service payments if you had any. Now, there's another part that we look at. It's more of a recognition, and that is that unexpected events or bad things happen, catastrophic events can happen to your infrastructure. It can be an ice storm, a windstorm. If you're in Florida, it could be a hurricane. And what we want to make sure is that if something like that were to happen, we don't necessarily want to ensure that you have enough cash to fund an entire catastrophic event. That's unrealistic. But we want to make sure that you have enough cash and reserves to start the repair and replacement process. So what we're doing here is we're recognizing that that risk is out there and exists. And we use the age of your infrastructure to determine how much risk you're facing of unexpected events. Now, this is our calculation of minimum cash. So if you look at the bottom, the minimum level of cash that we're saying the utility needs is about $24 million in reserves at a minimum. In 2026, you're actually projected to be above that, almost $40 million. But because of the capital improvement program that's needed, you can see the cash is dropping each year. It goes from 39 to 28, 25, $24 million. That's in the bottom line of this slide deck. Now, this minimum, if you look at the in the middle part of this, I'm going to use my highlighter. This number right here, that 12.3% of operation and maintenance cost, what that number is I mentioned that working capital lag, and there's about a 45-day lag between when you pay a bill and get the money from customers. That's what that lag is. And if you took 45 days and divided it by 365 days in a year, you get the 12.3%. Purchase power, You see there's 20%. That 20%, what we do is we look at what your maximum or biggest power supply bill is throughout the year. And we want to make sure that we keep that amount in your reserves at all times, so we can pay that BPA bill. Then you have one very, very large customer. And we feel that the utility has an additional amount of risk, because if something happened with that utility, be it they shut down or moved, you're going to have ongoing stranded costs, not just in the distribution system, but also in BPA, with the BPA power supply contract. So we want to make sure that we keep 20% of what they pay annually in our reserves at all times. Then the historical rate base, you see that 1%? That's recognizing that bad things happen. And because you have a newer infrastructure, it's only 42% depreciated. We've given you the lowest risk rating on something like that occurring, because you're constantly reinvesting, which means that you have less probability of something major occurring that's unexpected. So we've given you the lowest risk rating of 1%, and that's on the historical investment in your assets. And then your capital improvement program. We take your 5-year capital improvement program and we basically divide it by 5. And we want to keep that in reserves at all times. And when we quantified it, it's about $24 million. Is there any questions about this slide and how we determine this?
We're good.
Now, the target operating income, as I mentioned before, what we're trying to do here, and it represents more of an upper boundary, but we're trying to recover the inflationary increase in the replacement costs of infrastructure, so that when a customer uses assets and wears down the assets, that they're fully funding the replacement cost of the asset that they're consuming. That then becomes this target operating income. Now, for McMinnville, that rate of return, that's what it translates into, is 4.3%. Now, if you were an investor-owned utility, that rate of return number would be anywhere from 9 to 12%. But because you're a non-for-profit, we're only trying to recover the replacement cost of the infrastructure, that rate of return is at 4.3%. That's your break-even point. So when we pull all these numbers together, what we're looking at is a 4.5% rate adjustment each year. And we set this rate track primarily driven by the cash reserves. You see you're at 40 million here, and you can see you're in a cash burn situation. And at the end of 2028, you're projected at 25 million. Our minimum's about 23. That's with the 4.5% adjustments. So these adjustments are needed to keep your cash reserves above the minimum level. And you can also see that the optimal or upper boundary target, which is about 3 to 4 million, that you're below that target, which is where we want to see you between those two targets. We don't want to exceed that operating income target if we can help it, because once we exceed it, we are then overcharging our customers. So we're trying to keep it in between those two points, basically. So one of the key questions for the board today is, do you agree with the 4.5% overall rate adjustments each year for the next 3 years? So I'd like to open it up for questions.
Yeah, does that capture what we potentially could be paying for a new BPA contract? I see
It
that.
is not.
That
Oh,
is
sorry,
just
go
for
ahead.
the remainder of this current contract.
Yeah.
Because the new contract will start in October 1 of 2028.
Okay,
And there's a good chance that we will take another look at the cost of service analysis in 2028 once we have executed contracts and know as much as we can know about what the future will hold in 2028. So we may revisit this a little bit in year 3 of this rate track if we feel it's warranted.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts right now with BPA on what the rates are going to be post 2028.
that would be my only concern is with the 2028 rate to make sure that we stay in single digits and we don't see what some other entities have done.
Right. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
What was the rate increase the previous 3 years?
It was 275, if I remember. So our goal has been to try and keep the rate increases under 5%. So that's what kind of a target the commission set. Mark, I mean, that's been since you guys started with us, I think.
It is, yeah. And we've always been able to do that because you've always consistently done these planning studies every couple of 3 years.
So the other thing I will just mention that we're also working on is conservation, because with the changes in the contract post 2028, we're looking at ways to make sure that we don't have to buy tier 2 post 2028, because we will start having to buy tier 2 if we don't do something between now and then. So we're trying to, that's one of the reasons that we asked about increasing and having the clean fuel credit money go to heat pumps.
Yeah.
Additional rebates on heat pumps was so that we could maybe generate some additional savings before 2028.
Questions?
No, that's a good question.
I think those were all our questions right now.
Yeah, no, I get that it's a larger rate than we've typically seen, but it also builds the offering for the new potential contract
Right.
increase.
More to share.
Well, and we probably should mention the other thing is the BPA rate increase is substantial this time. On the magnitude, what was the overall rate increase, Jamie? Yes, for us. About 7%. That was just power, right? Or is that total? Power, and then there's a transmission component to that as well. How much was that one?
20.
So, yeah,
20% more.
on the transmission portion of our
Yeah.
BPA bill. So, yeah, substantial rate increases from BPA, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so 4.5% is a larger number than we've had to present to the commission in quite a number of years. But given those BPA rate increase numbers, we're pleased to provide a number that's under 5%.
Good job. Did Mark have any more to report?
So Mark, do you have more there or?
I do, yes. Sorry. Let me try to. There we go. This is the cost of service results. And what this does is it shows how much it costs to provide service to each class compared to the projected revenues and what the rate change would be needed to meet their overall cost of service. Now, if you go down the bottom, you see that 14.6%. That's the increase that would be needed to meet that target operating income. And we use that to compare how each of the rate classes are recovering their cost. And I mentioned at the beginning that no utility in the country charges 100% cost of service based rates. It's virtually impossible. And what you want to do is to try to continually move toward or work toward those cost of service results. But in the objective is to try to get within around 10% of the average increase number, which is the 14.6. So when I look at this, the classes that show increases above 24% or below like 4.6%. Those are the ones that are outside of what we feel is a good range. So like residentials are within that range, but we probably want to give them a little bit more of an increase than the average of 4.5. Wheeling is something that you can see 100, it needs to double basically. And you're going to see in our rate design that it's a small revenue item. And what wheeling is, if you're not familiar with it, it is for other utilities that are actually using our lines to get the power to them. And what we're proposing is to move it from that 11,000 to the 23,000 over the 2-year period. So our intention is to get it there quickly.
So, and Mark, maybe so here we have one customer, that's Portland General Electric, that wheels to our system to Eagle Point. Because they have customers up on Eagle Point that are in their service territory. So that's why we have that rate. Correct.
That's the only part of our system that's wheeled.
That's the only part of our system that we have another utility right now is there. We do have other areas outside in our service territory that PGE serves, but we don't serve them. So they're customers of PGE, not ours.
So basically, most of these are within tolerance of that. You see the rental lighting, and we're not proposing to change that. Municipal lighting is outside of those boundaries, but that obviously affects the general fund of the city. We are proposing an 8% increase in the lighting rates to try to move toward that in small increments, but trying to be cognizant of the fact that that could impact the general fund of the city.
And so I will just add there, we have talked to the city about that issue. And so we talked about around $30,000 increase in that. So I think this comes out a little bit less than that.
And is that a delta we've seen over the last couple decades?
It's actually been growing
Okay.
because we've been holding the rates a little bit lower increases, but their costs have been going up more because we've been spending more on putting in LED lights. And in the rates, the energy component is not the biggest component, it's the capital cost. And the LED lights are substantial.
And then with the residential delta, is that what we've seen historically? Or?
It's ranged in that range. I've seen it higher than that, and I've seen it lower than that. So it just varies on what's going on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah. Now there's another part, and I'm going to jump to this, and I'll explain the other 2 slides I skipped over. This is the fixed monthly customer charge for each rate class that theoretically we should charge. Like in the residential, they have a fixed monthly charge of $17.10. The cost of service study says it should be around $21.50. Now, this fixed charge is probably one of the most least understood charges that utilities have. They oftentimes, from a customer standpoint, they think about it more like Dunkin' Donuts doesn't charge us to walk through the door. Why does a utility need to charge us for every month, whether we use any electricity or water? And, Dunkin' Donuts makes an investment on behalf of the community, definitely. But a utility makes an investment specifically for every customer in their system. If we have a meter installed on their home or their facility, we have the cost to install the meter, the responsibility to maintain the meter, replace the meter. Every month we have to read that meter. We have to send out a bill. We have a customer service department available to them to answer any questions, as well as a service drop from our main lines into their home or facility that is specifically to serve them. So those are fixed costs that do not vary based on consumption. And it becomes a fairness issue when if you artificially keep the customer charge low, then what happens is we have to roll it to recover the cost. We have to roll it into the energy component. So what happens then is we start creating subsidies within the class itself. In other words, a higher user is going to be subsidizing a smaller user. Like I'm from Michigan, and Michigan I think is a great state to live in, but we have pretty bad winters. And because of that, we have probably 15% of our population that goes south for the winter season. And if we don't charge the appropriate fixed charge to everyone, what will happen is these seasonal customers will be getting subsidized from the year-round ratepayers in Michigan that will have to endure the Michigan winters. They have to subsidize the people that can go to Florida, for example, in the winter months. So it becomes a fairness issue. Now, with that said, there's one part of the charge that could be deemed somewhat controversial, and that is that we have to have a wire that extends from the substation to the home or facility. Without that wire, we cannot deliver any electricity. So the question then becomes how much of that wire cost should be rolled into the fixed component and how much into the usage charge or the kilowatt hour charge. And what we do to determine that is it's a standard methodology that's used in the industry. It's called a minimum system analysis. And we look at what the minimum sizing requirements are on the wires. And we allocate that minimum sizing requirements into the customer charge. And the cost to oversize it or go bigger than the minimum is put into the usage charge. And that's what makes up that $21.57. So what you're going to see in our proposed rate design is a slow movement from your current customer charge toward the cost of service. In the first year, we're going up $1.25 in each of the years to move toward that number in a manner that's slow and minimizes impacts on customers as much as possible. So is there any questions before I go to the rate design, the last piece?
Nope.
Now, in our proposed rate designs, we design rates to achieve the 4.5% down here. Now, residentials, we gave a little bit more at 4.9. Wheeling, you can see that it's 52% rate adjustments in each year to get them up to the appropriate numbers. And municipal, we went up 8%. And then the general service, because they actually showed that they were real close to cost of service, they're only getting a 4%. And irrigation, similar to residential, at 4.9. So the residential rate design, in year one, the plan is to go from 1710 to 1825 and then to 1960. So even after the second phase rate adjustment, we still will not be totally at the 2157, but we're moving toward that. Now, and then we adjusted the energy charges to achieve the overall increase of 4.9. Now, when you look at the impact on customers at different levels of usage, at 1,000 kilowatt hours, they would see about a 5% increase. And pretty much everyone else is going to see right around a 4.5. So most of the customers are going to be in that 4.5 range. The general service, the 4%. What we did here is this blocked energy from 0 to 15. You're currently charging $3 a kW. We plan on moving that up and keeping the other two blocks the same. not adjusting the demand charges in the other two blocks. And of course, the customer charges are going up slightly, as well as the energy rates, so that overall they'll see a 4% increase. And you can see the range is between about 3.9% and 6%, with the average being right at that 4%. Municipal lighting is at 8% across the board adjustments. Rental lighting, no rate changes. And that's again because the cost of service study said that we're actually over collecting slightly from them. And then the irrigation rate design, which we adjusted at 4.9%, and we took the customer charge up about $250 a year. And this is the blocked rate design and then the demand charges. And you can see that we moved the demand charges up in both the 0 to 30 category and the block 2 excess. Overall, everybody in this class is going to see between a 4.5% and 5.5% increase. So with that, I'd like to open up for questions.
Commissioners have any questions?
I don't think so.
All right. So now we can go to interested parties if they have questions. Is there anybody on Zoom?
There is not.
Okay. Is there anybody on the phone?
There is not.
Is there any interested party in the audience? Mr. Dave?
You come up?
Yeah, sure. Hi.
Mark Davis, 652 Southeast Washington Street here in McMinnville. I have a question for Mr. Beauchamp. Your cost of service study, I don't see any numbers there for what it costs to serve the industrial customers, Cascade Steel and Air Liquide. What happens to those costs? Who's paying those?
The increases from BPA, those costs will be, because BPA is changing their rates, and those are pass-through rates to them. The only thing that we set is the distribution charges. And those are small and relative to the power supply costs for them.
And those are actually going to be that distribution rate will actually be addressed in a separate public hearing. We're going to do a hearing for the industrials in the next couple of months. So we're actually in the midst of reviewing that distribution charge now.
So the time that staff spends, I mean, there's got to be, just like for the residential customers, there has to be, staff and materials and other things. This is what will be covered
In the distribution charge.
in the distribution
Yeah,
charge.
so the way it works is we have essentially two tracks here. We have everybody except the industrial customers, and their contract is a direct pass-through with additional costs, the distribution charge, which essentially is the same charge you're paying for your customer charge, but theirs is substantially more because they are actually completely separate from our residential or everybody else's rates.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks for the question. Anybody else? No. Any staff final comments?
Yes, it is staff's recommendation to continue this public hearing to August 19th, 2025 at 5 p.m. At that time, an additional staff report will be given, proposed rate schedule changes will be presented based on the presentation tonight, and additional interested parties may be heard. I'd also like to offer information from the commission packet, which is pages 3 to 21, to be admitted as part of the hearing record. Thank you.
Thank you, Trina. I would like a motion to continue the hearing at the later date, please. Or do you need to read something?
No, just a motion to continue the hearing to August, what was that date again? August
19th.
August
19th, and to accept the meeting materials into the record.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, although Trina, all those in favor? I can just do it, can't I?
Aye.
Perfect, passes. I get used to this roll call and what I can do, I'm still. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so now we're gonna move right into our regular meeting. Here, we have 3 items listed on the consent agenda. Would any commissioners like to move any of the items off of the consent agenda? Nope, okay. Oh, the growth plan, I don't know if you guys could get it. Yours good? Oh,
Yeah, I got
okay,
it.
mine, put in. Okay, perfect. I have a written copy, so. All right, so do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Second.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Garvin and a second from Commissioner Elmer. Any additional questions? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes. Okay, included in the packet are the accounts payable and purchasing reports. Were there any questions on these? Nope. All right, no questions, so we'll move forward. No new employee introductions. Next, we have consultant partner reports. Ask Brent Keller Forester to please update the commission on the forest management activities.
So both Brent Keller and then also item 10A for the auditors, we told them they could just join at the regular 5 o'clock time, assuming that the hearing would last about an hour.
Okay.
So if you want, Mayor, you can skip past those 2 and we can get some other things done until 5 and they join.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on to 8. There are no appearance requests tonight. No staff reports tonight. Are they gonna be here in time still? No. So we can go to 10B. Next item is a contract amendment with MWA Architects for the facility project. We invite Chad Hudson up to introduce the item. Hi, Chad.
Hey, how are we doing?
Good.
Yes, tonight we're seeking adoption of a resolution to approve contract number 1 with MWA Architects for the expansion of the warehouse. The December 2024 meeting, commission approved the original contract with MWA Architects for phases 0.5 and phase 1 of the office expansion remodel and warehouse seismic retrofit. As part of NWA scope, we had them do an analysis on expanding the warehouse as far as embracing the existing warehouse to make it one building and see if it would be of cost benefit to do so. They did complete that study and staff presented that study to the commission at a previous meeting. The commission authorized staff to proceed forward with a contract amendment with MWA to expand the warehouse. And that's what we're presenting tonight. So amendment was submitted, or a price proposal was submitted by MWA Architects for the modified scope of work to expand the warehouse. Includes the scope of work, hourly rates, and a not to exceed price of $627,904 for the contract amendment. Staff is recommending approval of this amendment. It is under the budgeted amount that we had in the capital budget for the amendment and is in line with their original pricing that they had. It's about 10.5% for the construction costs is what they had before. So it's in line with that. Staff does feel comfortable with their price proposal. So staff is recommending adoption of the resolution to approve the contract amendment number 1 with MWA Architects to seismically upgrade the existing warehouse through an addition, as is within the scope of the original solicitation. It would not materially impact the field of competition for architectural and engineering services.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions from Chad? No? Okay, so do I have a motion to accept? We're gonna do the resolution first.
If the commission is prepared to vote, I'll read the resolution by title only.
Sounds good to me.
Is resolution number 2025-14, a resolution by the City of McMinnville's Water and Light Commission to approve amendment number 1 of the engineering and architectural personal services contract for the office expansion, remodel, and warehouse seismic retrofit project that's 2025-14.
Motion to accept that resolution.
So moved. Second.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Elmer and a second from Commissioner Garden. Any additional discussion? All those, I need to have a poll.
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Elmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Garvin.
Yes.
Perfect. So then the next item we would need to look at is the amendment to the actual contract.
Yeah, and that is included within
We
the.
need to do it
packet.
separately.
No, the resolution approves the amendment, so
Perfect.
it contains the necessary findings and
Perfect.
it gives us that authority to proceed forward.
All right. So, oh, you're staying, aren't you?
So,
We've got a few here.
It's until 5 o'clock.
Next item is the 2026 transformer allocation purchasing manager, Chad Hudson will also present.
Yeah, I got two.
I think actually it would see,
For-
we're doing the public contracting policy amendment next.
Oh, sorry, I took that as that policy, so let me go back. Okay,
Oh,
do-
and maybe I didn't understand your question.
Yeah.
that's okay, that's all right. So now the amendment, the contracting policy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, last
Okay.
month,
I do it all the time, it's okay.
one of these days I'll have an iPad.
Come on,
I
buddy.
They won't give
I
you
can
one?
roll anyway.
No, that's not the reason.
I just got too many papers there and I got.
He likes the paper.
You need this?
No, I think I'll be good. So last month, staff came to the commission and proposed amendment to McMinnville Water and Lights purchasing policy, specifically regarding section 10 and the credit cards. We opened up for review and comment. We did get some comments from the commission. We tried to address those tonight. So staff is recommending adoption of a resolution to amend the current public contracting policy. Specifically section 10 regarding credit cards. Basically what it is doing is it's the commission to be delegating authority to the general manager to oversee the existing credit card the expanded credit card program. Water and Light's been using the one card program since I believe it's about 2018. We have 3 card holders currently, 2 that use it on a regular basis. Over time, processes change, people get assigned different tasks. And so, I would say this. To be more efficient, I think it'd be very beneficial to expand the credit card program. A lot of times people will need to make a purchase online and they'll get online themselves and then they'll call me or another credit card holder and say, hey, Chad, can you run down to my office? I need to make a credit card purchase. And so they do that. And I walk down there and I enter their information and then they print off the receipt and they send it to me. I do the coding for their department because it's under my name. It's not a good system. I think it'd be far more efficient if we added some users so that they can make those purchases themselves. I think it would free up staff time and the approving manager would be able to oversee what's being coded in their actual budget on their line item. So a lot of times the approving manager is not seeing those. It's going from my department directly to accounts payable. So that would change that. There were some of the controls I think that would increase with this. That we're expanding the number of cards to 11 from 3 to 11 right now. We have a written standard practice which is included in the packet. Training, which we haven't had before. User agreements that would have to be signed by all card holders. And then the use of NIXC expense reporting module, which I don't have all the answers to, but it's there. That'll take an implementation phase of training. And the idea would be for the existing credit card users to start using that program, get comfortable with it, and then be the trainers for staff. I think it will help, because we'll be uploading all receipts to NISC directly. It'll be searchable, which right now it's not. We can't search past NISC purchase history without just going through paper and looking. And it'll give an additional review to all credit card purchases with the approving manager. So I think that a lot of increased controls, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Some of the items that were brought up last month with the commission was there was any protections from water and light from fraudulent charges from the employee. The answer is yes. Visa has a program called Visa Liability, which we are automatically currently enrolled in, that ensures the utility up to $100,000 for fraudulent charges. There has to be a few things that have to take place for us to get those funds, but it is there for us. Also metrics for turning in purchase documentation, and consequences for not turning in on time. So the way the standard practice is currently written, we have to turn in all documentation within 3 days of receiving the credit card statement, sending that off to approving manager, and the approving manager has 2 additional days to approve it and get it over to accounts payable for payment. That doesn't happen, their card gets down to 0 until they get their documentation in. If they're repeat offenders, their credit card privileges will be revoked. And you exceed credit card, their limit. I would say is day-to-day practice, it's not going to happen. The potential would be gas station, I guess, if you went out and you were under your limit, we started pumping your gas and you went over, there's potential there. We have our own fuel station here, so it's probably not going to be a problem. Potential on travel. Travel would be the place. Another maybe would be a hotel when you check in and they run your card and you're under the limit, but then you have charges afterwards when you check out, it could possibly exceed it. But on the day-to-day purchases that we make, your card would be declined if you were in exceed your budget on that purchase. And then the last one was in reference to the NISC reporting module and the implementation that has been included to the standard practice, and staff is fully that is something we're going to do. I think it'll really help with controls and be able to track it. Everything will be electronic for approvals. So I guess in conclusion, staff is recommending adoption by resolution to update McMinnville Water and Light's public contracting policy and amend section 10 to expand the credit card program and improve internal controls, efficiencies, and allowing approving managers to more efficiently manage departmental purchases and budgets.
Cool, thank you. And thank you for going back and making the changes that the commission asked you to look at and change. So I appreciate that. Any additional questions for Chad?
I just want to say thanks for taking our feedback. Commissioner Takersby had a lot of comments, and I feel like the Visa program that we're auto enrolled in, covers a lot of his concerns. So comfortable voting on it tonight.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Resolution.
Yes. So this is resolution number 2025-15, a resolution authorizing and amending rules and procedures for public contracting by the McMinnville Water and Light Commission. It's resolution 2025-15.
Do I have a motion to accept that resolution?
Summary.
Commissioner Garvin, and a second from Commissioner Elmer and Trina, please.
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Elmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Garvin.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to move on to the 2026 transformer allocation. Chad.
Yeah, so we've been a part of this allocation program. So General Pacific is a distributor, Armco is the manufacturer. And we've been in, what should this be, the third, fourth year? Anyway, the last 3 calendar years, we've been a part of this program. And the reason we hopped into the program initially was lead times were out 2 years, 2 years plus. Pricing was elevated, still remains elevated. But the potential to even get pricing from vendors, they weren't returning quotes because they're backlogged. So this program has really been beneficial to Water and Light over the last few years. It has ensured supply of transformers at a reasonable price, and ensuring that we're going to get them within the budget, year, well, within the year. So we have been in the, like I said, for the last 3 years for single phase transformers and 3-phase transformers. Single phase market has softened. It's gotten a lot better. Lead times are around 12-ish weeks. Pre-pandemic, it was pretty close to that, usually about 8 to 12 weeks. So it's gotten better. Prices, like I said, are still elevated. We're still seeing some problems with 3-phase and capacity issues. So staff recommendation that we stay in the allocation program with General Pacific for 3-phase units only, to ensure that we have continuity of supply for three-phase transformers. And then reassess next year as we kind of progress through this, come back to the commission if we think that we need to run it again next year. But that would ensure. Another thing that's been a problem is larger transformers for 3-phase, 300 kVA, 300 kVA and above have been difficult to get, if not impossible. We will be able to procure those size transformers if we stay in this program.
And the 3-phase transformers are pad mount transformers. We don't have any 3-phase pole mount transformers. So there's just strictly the green large commercial transformers is what these are.
And how many of those do you usually get a year?
We get 10. So so basically what it is an allocation for production slots.
Okay.
So it's really nice. So we get to the quarterly, we have to give them this sizing information. They return a quote to us and we send a purchase order over to them. We do have the ability when they send the pricing over to say no.
Okay.
Which puts General Pacific on the hook. There's no contract, there's no binding contract between General Pacific and the Water and Light. But it's been real beneficial for Water and Light continuity supply, especially through the rough patches that we've seen the last 2 years with supply of transformers. So
what happened during the pandemic, utilities were basically looking for transformers. Since we were on this program, we did not have to delay any customer work because of this, because we had transformers available through this program.
yeah, so this would be a special procurement. Special procurement basically is exempting us from competitive bidding. So staff would issue a notice of intent to award, protest period, and all that. If no protest period, then we move forward.
Okay.
Do we keep a inventory on hand of a certain amount of each one at all times?
Yes, exactly.
So we would have it, it's just typically when
To
you want
replace
something to
those.
replace that one,
Right.
so, okay.
So we keep, and there's various sizes. We keep at least 2 on each, minimum of 2 of each of the 3-phase sizes.
Okay.
And when we get down, when we replace those, and 2 years out that would have been a problem, big problem.
And even with the softening of the single phase market, knowing if the tariffs don't want you to be locked into this.
So these are all made here. So the only thing, the way the transformers are made, most of those materials are domestically available. But except for one item, and that's the core steel, because the core steel is a special steel. It's what they call a grain oriented steel. So if you looked at the grain of the steel under a microscope, the grains all run the same way, and that's to help reduce the losses in the core. That's only made in 2 places, the US and China. And obviously the bigger the transformer, the more core steel you need. And so that's where you get into trouble. We don't have there's no escalators on this in this program.
No,
So
they just give you spot exception
within 12 weeks of delivery.
Yep.
They'll give you the.
And we have the
actual
right to
price.
decline it.
So we don't have we don't have the tariff issue. That's what you're
Yeah, and the core steel issue that John's talking about, that's why it's been really hard to get any larger three-phase transformers. ERMCO is opening up another manufacturing plant in April of 2026, so they're hoping that really opens up for them, but we will be assured to get 300 kV and above through this program.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to read a resolution?
Sure. This is resolution number 2025-16, a resolution of the City of McMinnville's Water and Light Commission approving a contract-specific special procurement for electric three-phase distribution transformers. It's 2025-16.
Motion?
So,
I'm going to take a motion from Commissioner Elmer and a second from Commissioner Garvin. Any additional questions? Trina?
Yes, Mayor Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Elmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Garvin.
yes.
Perfect. Dad, you get it go, don't you?
Thank you, Chad.
Get this thing back to you. Thank you.
Next item is customers helping customers, or the CHC program.
Or do you want to jump back? Trina, do you think we want to jump back to 5 o'clock?
Yes, we do have
Okay.
both Brent Keller and the auditors on the line, so we can do the
Sure.
timber report and then go to the auditors report if you'd like.
Sure. Okay, so Brent, we're gonna let you go. Maybe.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. 2024 stumpage sale, 300 401 road is complete. A1 is finished logging that sale, which purchased by Boise Cascade. 423 loads were shipped to Boise and other destinations. The volume off of that sale was about 2.3 million board feet, which is about 20% over the original estimated final volume. As we're getting the final numbers in the next month here, I'll drill into maybe why we were over, but that is good to be over on the volume. Estimated value to date, a little over $1 million has been received by Water and Light. We're looking for the final payment on that this week, and so we'll be over the original estimated value as well, and all of the final numbers for this sale at the August meeting. But we should come out about $1.2 million, $1.3 million in final value. The 2025 sales, as we've discussed, Stimson is going to log the 350 Boundary Road sale in 2026. Olson Brothers Logging has begun cutting, logging, and actually trucking off the 731-90-100 road sale. Stimson Lumber is the buyer on that one. And I'll start reporting volume and value estimates, or where we're at with the volume and value for that sale next month. They are scheduled to complete the sale in September, so we're in good shape there. Project work for the sale, which includes road brushing and clearing, is currently underway. We're nearly done road brushing completely around McGuire Reservoir, the main road, and spur roads around the reservoir. There'll be additional project work as the season unfolds here. Fire season for Northwest District 3 officially began June 23 at a level 1 industrial fire precaution level, quickly moved to level 2 here in the last few weeks, and that's where we're at currently. Water and Light fire truck stationed at the treatment plant, and all operators in the watershed have required fire equipment, of course, the loggers, but the road brusher as well has a fire truck that accompanies the operation there. So I wouldn't start a road brushing project right in the middle of fire season, but they're just towards the tail end of what they started on in the spring. So we're in good shape there and prepared for fire season. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
Nope, we're good, Brent. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, so let's go down to 10A, the first item under new business, which is the property liability workers' comp insurance renewal. Mark Dunwire, well, hello.
It's the audit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the audit. Yeah.
Doesn't say, or sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Just says,
Yeah, so Keith Simovic, our audit partner, he's with us this evening via Zoom. So we are in the beginning phases of our fiscal year 24-25 audit. Auditors were out here last week and started their interim field work. So historically, we've had both an entrance meeting and an exit meeting with the audit committee, but at the last year in December, based on kind of how things went at our November meeting, the commission decided to, rather than do an audit committee, we would just have these presentations presented to the commission. And so that's kind of our new format going forward. So Keith's going to present that information. And then after he's done, I just wanted to talk briefly about timeline at the end of the audit, just to make sure we're all on the same page there, since a little different format that we've been in prior years. So thanks, Keith, for being with us.
Perfect. Thanks for the introduction, Mark. Can you guys hear me okay?
yes.
Yep.
Perfect. I've got a brief presentation that I'm going to go ahead and see if I can share on the screen. So bear with me for 1 second. It's up easy enough. You all see this now?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Well, again, as Mark said, I'm Keith Simovic. Title now is principal with Baker Tilly, but formerly known as partner with Moss Adams. I know there's been some discussion maybe at the last meeting about kind of the merger that our firm entered into. So just wanted to kind of reiterate that. Same person that's been working with McMinnville Water and Light performing the audit for the last audit contract and a little bit before that as well. But we do operate under a new name now since the merger that we entered into in early June. So I'm still getting used to saying that I'm with Baker Tilly, but they are a similar size firm to what Moss Adams was previously, and had a very strong industry focus, just like us, and had a very strong power and utilities focus, which kind of all of us from Moss Adams were very excited about entering into this merger and just having that depth and additional bench strength with merging with Baker Tilly with their power and utilities expertise as well. So very excited about operating under this new firm, but really for all of our clients, we're not really expecting any changes other than kind of a new name and some new kind of logos and things like that come along with it. But other than that, we'll have a similar team that's operating here out of our Portland, Oregon office, just like has been done in the past. So no difference there. Wanted to kick off with that. Other than that, really the intention here, since again, this is kind of new to present this entrance meeting to the full commission. The intention here is really just to open the lines of communication with all of you and to kind of bring you into the process, kind of introduce you to kind of the timeline and the procedures that we go through in our audit plan, and open it up for any questions that you have. At the end of the day, our responsibility is to communicate with the commission as a whole. And so we want to make sure that you're aware of what's happening, who's involved, and that you can reach out to us with any questions or concerns along the way as well. If things go according to plan, which they have in the past, and that's been my experience working with McMinnville Water and Light, fully intend for those things to go according to plan again this year. But if that's the case, then you'll hear from us, of course, now at the very start of this process, then again at the end of the process, once we're done with the audit and we can present kind of the results of the audit. If there are any things that come up in the meantime, if we have concerns or significant issues that pop up during the audit, if there's a lot of material audit adjustments that we're finding, material weaknesses in internal controls, if you have concerns about the integrity of management or suspicions of fraud, those are things that will come us much earlier in the process. But thankfully, yes, we have not had those things come up in previous years. And outside of that, you'll hear from us, of course, now and then at the end of the audit as well. All right, let's skip past the agenda. In terms of our service team. This isn't everyone, but this is kind of the managerial group from our team this year. In addition to myself, we also have Olga Darlington, who is also a principal with Baker Tilly now. And it's kind of, you can think of it as a QC role. Olga is also dedicated to our power and utilities group, just like me. So she only works with entities in this industry. And she is required to look at certain key documents and, of course, the financial statements and all of our audit deliverables as well, just to make sure we're following all of our professional standards, that we followed through on everything that we said we were going to do initially, that we've done our risk assessment appropriately, and that our final deliverables have all the content and things that they should include as well. So she has to kind of sign off on all these things before we can move forward with delivering our final report. So that's something that's not required by professional standards, that we have that additional QC review, but something that our firm requires on every audit that we do. Just have that additional layer and what we call kind of a cold review, or someone that's not on site with our team members, not kind of talking with your staff or anything like that, kind of just outside of the audit, making sure, hey, did we do things according to plan and according to our professional standards. Then Ida Alvarado is our audit manager. She's been involved on the audit now for, I think this is her second year that she's been on this specific audit, but she also works with me closely on a lot of our power and utilities clients as well. So happy to have Ida back, kind of leading our team of other staff and seniors that are there on site working with your finance group as we conduct the audit. The overall scope of services, in addition to performing the annual audit and giving our final audit deliverables, which we'll go through those a little bit later. On top of that, your management team has asked us also to assist with drafting that financial statement document. So at the end, of course, you get that document with all your financial statements and footnotes that has our audit opinions attached to those. That actual document, we assist with putting that together in kind of the form and content and format and everything that's required by the governmental accounting standards that you have to follow. But all the information in there, the numbers, those all come directly from your NISC system and your finance team throughout the year, from all the journal entries that they record and reconciliations and things like that, right? So we just help with kind of putting that final document together so it kind of meets all the governmental accounting standards. And again, our overall responsibility is to express that opinion over the fairness and accuracy of that financial statement document. So that goes back to all the testing that we have to do to look at various contracts, agreements, invoices, underlying cash receipts, cash disbursements, making sure that there's substantive evidence to support the information that is getting captured within your general ledger in your NISC system, then ultimately summarized and reported in that set of financial statements. So that any third party that gets a copy of these financial statements that wants to see, hey, have you gotten an audit done? Was it done by a third party independent firm that's licensed to do this work, which Baker Tilly, of course, is, gives that extra third party kind of stamp that says, you know, someone else has taken a look at this and this is prepared, it's accurate, and it's in line with the governmental accounting standards. On top of that, we're required to communicate certain items that come up during the audit. Again, if we find significant audit adjustments, if we have any recommendations in the process, right? Not only just do we have any items that we say, hey, you've got maybe some work to do in this area to patch up your internal controls or kind of boost the system of checks and balances. You know, we work with a lot of entities in this industry, so we can kind of bring some of those best practices that we see at other entities as well, and communicate some of those best practices when we communicate to you at the end of this process. On top of that, our responsibility again is to all of you, but you know, your responsibility overall is to kind of provide that oversight for the financial statements themselves and the financial reporting process that your team carries out. Each and every year, we have to go through and talk as a team internally to say, hey, where do we want to spend the bulk of our time? What are the areas that maybe there's a little bit more risk that there could be an error, right, in your financial statements? That maybe things, it's a little more complex, or it's something that's new, it's something that's unique, larger dollar amounts, a lot of checks and balances that have to be in place to get it recorded correctly at the right amount in the right period, in the right account. All those different things are things that we have to be thinking about. And then we set our audit plan from there and design our audit procedures to make sure we can address those risks and be comfortable at the end of the day through our testing that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. So each and every year we kind of talk about that and say, hey, what's significant, what's new, or is there a lot of inherent risk or complexity? This can change from year to year, although some of these things can be similar from year to year, just depending on the overall inherent risk. And some of our professional audit standards that require some of these things to be considered significant risks. So the items that we've got in there for this year, one being your industrial revenues. So your more significant billings that you've got there that require additional processes to make sure that before those bills go out that they are correct. So we take a look at those and what you're recording in the financial statements. And again, that's recorded the right amount in the right period. Your timber revenues and expenses, large dollar amounts running through theirs. And also kind of a unique area, I would say, compared to some of the other utilities that we work with, not completely unique. We see that other places, but you definitely have a significant amount running through there each and every year. So we want to focus in on that and make sure we've got additional procedures there to address that area. And then management override of controls. This is not something where we've said this is a significant risk specifically to McMinnville Water and Light. So I want to make sure that's clear. This is something that our professional standards requires now on every audit that we do, that we just need to factor this into our audit approach and design procedures to address the risk that there could be management override of your internal controls, right? Because someone in a managerial position has more access within the system or could potentially override controls. So that's something that we have to be cognizant of and just make sure we're addressing that with certain procedures each and every year. You haven't hired us to come in and do a forensic audit, so this isn't anything that's unique or that we're looking for fraud per se. But this is something that we have to be, again, cognizant of in the context of our financial statement audit. And so at the end of the day, when we're giving an audit opinion, it says, are these financial statements free of material misstatement or errors, whether due to a mistake, an error, or fraud, right? So we're looking for the big misses in your financial statements. So again, we need to be thinking about how could fraud occur. We talk about that and we brainstorm as a team internally each and every year. We talk about, hey, how is fraud happening out there in the industry? What are we seeing at other kind of governments or governmental utilities? How might fraud be happening? What are we seeing in the news? Are there new kinds of schemes out there or cases that we need to be aware of? Could that happen at McMinnville Water and Light? Are we aware of any internal control deficiencies in the past or from our initial procedures out there, which our team performed last week, to take a look at internal controls and say, is there anything where there's a weakness there where maybe something could happen by error or by fraud and not be identified in a timely manner, or prevented or detected in that timely manner. So those are the things that we kind of talk about and say, all right, where are we going to design new procedures, keep the audit fresh each and every year to make sure we're addressing that risk. So that is something that we always want to think about. Fraud never happens where a significant amount of money goes out the door all in one transaction. A lot of times it starts small, is typically what we see. And someone finds that there's a weakness in the system and it grows over time. So this is something where we kind of rotate through, okay, what are those maybe smaller areas that we want to look at and see, hey, are there good internal controls? Are we seeing that there's any indication that potentially fraud could occur? So that's something that we talk about. And then we also have interviews with individuals throughout the organization each and every year at different levels, just to kind of step out of that detailed audit work that we're doing. Obviously, that's a very important part, but stepping away, keeping our eyes and ears open and just saying, are there other ways or things that we need to be aware of that people are talking about or thinking or feeling that could lead to fraud occurring, right? So we'll ask about any concerns that they have, any lack of internal controls, if they've been asked to do things that they're uncomfortable with, those types of things. And typically that leads to someone at the kind of commission level as well. So we've talked with different individuals at the audit committee level in the past, and likely we will be reaching out to one of you this year as well, just to have a one-on-one and kind of gauge, is there anything else we should be aware of? Any questions thus far?
No.
So this gives you a little bit of a summary of our audit timeline. So here we are kind of at the start of this process. Yes, we already did our interim, what we call our interim field work, and that's where we're looking at processes, procedures, internal controls, checks and balances to help us design our audit procedures. This is our audit planning presentation today. Then we have our final field work. Once your team has finished closing the books for the year, they've done all their reconciliations, they've done all their internal controls, and they're ready for us to start our testing. Then we'll come back on site. Our team will be there face to face, kind of with your team, working through our audit procedures there at just a little less than 2 months from now. It goes by pretty fast, but we'll be out there in September before we start shifting our focus towards putting together that financial statement draft in October and going through kind of the various reviews on both our side and the McMinnville Water and Light side. Then we'll have another meeting to go through and review kind of the draft results and finalize this thing towards the middle and towards the end of November. So that's the typical timeline that we've experienced in the past. But again, you'll hear from us if we experience any delays or think there'll be any impact to this actual timeline for any reason. We'll let you know, but we haven't really run into that in the past. All right, 2 main deliverables that you'll see at the end of this process, in addition to our report of independent auditors that gets attached to your financial statements, and we kind of talk through that. On top of that, you'll get our report to those charged with governance. It's an additional letter that's required by our professional standards, and that's intended to give you more information as to how the audit went. On top of just, did you get a clean opinion or not, which is very, very important. This tells you, how did things go? Did you run into issues along the way? Were there significant errors that you found and audit adjustments that needed to be made before you could give a clean opinion? Did you have deficiencies in the internal controls that you identified? Were there best practices? Did you have difficulties in working with our team? Were there any delays in the process? Did you get access to all the information and all your questions answered along the way? Those are the types of things that you'll see in that letter, and we'll go through kind of the highlights there at the final presentation. In terms of expectations, to make sure that we go through this process smoothly, we can go along that timeline that we just went over. Expectation is that on the McMinnville Water and Light side, that there really won't be any audit adjustments, right? That things are reconciled, that there's a good system of internal controls, and that things are in good order. Documentation will be ready for us. Books will be closed at the time that our final fieldwork starts. And then on our side, that will complete things timely. We'll communicate with you along the way on any audit adjustments, control deficiencies, or anything else that could impact our ability to complete the audit timely or in the budget and the agreed upon fees that we have in the contract. All right, briefly, just want to go through one new accounting standard that's coming out this year that's going to impact your financial reporting. And this is for every governmental entity, every governmental utility that's out there has to kind of consider this new standard. Doesn't mean it will have a significant impact on McMinnville Water and Light, but your team is working through this currently to kind of evaluate what will the impact be. So this is GASB statement number 101. And it's related to compensated absences. And it's not really a new concept. You've had an accrual on your financial statements for compensated absences in previous years. But under this standard, it's really kind of just changing the recognition and measurement criteria for really when do you record these and at what dollar amount do you record them. So it's having some impacts there. And I'd say the biggest impact really that this is intended to have is for organizations that might have or might offer sick leave, but maybe that sick leave isn't required to be paid out upon termination. So it hasn't really been recorded in the past as an accrual on your financial statements. And that's been completely fine under the previous guidance. Under this new guidance, they're having you take a look at this or have your team kind of take a look at this and say, well, yeah, maybe you don't pay it out upon termination, but what's the amount that's more likely than not to be either paid out at some point or used by that employee in the future, right? So you're having to do some historical analysis of how much gets forfeited, how much is used, how much is earned to figure out, well, what's that more likely than not amount going to be now that we have to follow this new GASB 101 standard. So your team's having to look at all your different leave programs, looking at how this impacts the financial reporting, and then that will be reflected in your June 30th, 2025 financial statements as well. Any questions on that piece? All right. Well, I think that's everything that we had for our initial audit plan. Happy to answer any other questions that you have about timeline or areas that we're taking a look at, or anything else that's on your mind. But like I said, other than that, we will probably be working with the management team to kind of identify someone on the board that we haven't talked to in the past and kind of have a one-on-one conversation like we talked about. So.
Thank you. I don't think any commissioners have any questions.
I would just, Keith, if you could jump back a couple of slides to the timeline. I just wanted to highlight, in the past, we have had, so you see there the November 4th date, that typically has been our audit committee meeting, which has not been, all the commissioners aren't there, just the audit committee members are there. This time it would be a special commission meeting, so that's a little different this year, and I just wanted to point that out. We talked about that back in December. That's the date, so as we get closer, we'll need to, I guess, just wanted to get that on everybody's radar. Hopefully that will work. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room in order for us to get the audit, assigned audit, at the November regular commission meeting. And we can't really move it up a whole lot closer to the November meeting on the 18th. And it's really hard to move it back into October because we're trying to get the report ready. So it is a pretty tight window, and I'm just hoping that date is going to work okay for the commission.
And it has to be a separate meeting than a commission meeting.
Yeah, just because of the timing, if we want to have the November meeting have a signed audit there.
And Mark, we're trying to get a signed audit because
we want to be able to provide that to the city for inclusion in the city's audit. And in the past, the commission has reviewed that. The commission is to accept the audit. And it just didn't, last time the commission wasn't comfortable accepting an audit that didn't have an opinion. And that's how it came last time. So the solution to that would be to have the audit signed, the opinions there, the commission reviews that at the November meeting. So in order to do that, we have to have a meeting a couple of weeks ahead for the final review. And then if there's any changes that can get completed, and there's a management letter that's required that we have to issue before we get a signed audit.
Short though, right?
What's that?
Should be pretty short.
Yeah, it won't be.
We can do it via Zoom.
Yeah, it'd be similar to just what we had. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Commissioner's good with that?
Yeah, if we can Zoom, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write it in here right now.
The
Okay.
18th one I will have to do by Zoom. I'll be available.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks. Thank you, Keith.
That'll be a 5 p.m. meeting.
We can set up whatever time you want.
So as that gets closer, we'll come in this
Yeah.
way. Is that the plan? Okay.
So it could be early, it could be 5, whatever works for everybody.
Perfect.
I'm good.
All right. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
thank you.
Take care.
Okay. So now,
On these audits, is this just for background information, is this a
No,
self-inflicted
it's-
or is it a required state, federal? Okay.
It's required by the state.
By the state.
because it is painful.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sure it is. I mean, there's no doubt, there's a lot of work that goes in to do this, and it's yearly.
Yes.
And what did they charge for this
So it's
service?
60 some odd
Yeah, it was
thousand.
over 60,000.
60,000.
It really jumped during the pandemic. It went from about 35
It
to
was like 38.
Yeah.
And then it went to 54 and then 58 and 60, little over 60 now.
There's
for the 3 years.
So it's not a percentage of our
No.
budget or anything. It's just whatever their
Yeah,
time is worth.
exactly.
All right. Let's move on.
Thank you, Keith.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We're looking for
John.
John. Next item
He's
is
way back
customers
there.
helping customers program
Way
update.
buried back there.
John Spence, Customer Service Manager. Welcome.
So in your packet, you'll find the memo for the Customer Helping Customers program. If you recall, in January, brought a report to the commission that summarized the calendar year 2024. In that meeting, we decided to go to a fiscal year. So just the first 6 months we talked about. This is just a follow-up to summarize these first 6 months of this year and then move to the calendar year. So staff would be looking for the commission to maintain the $3 matching with a cap limit of 30,000 for this upcoming fiscal year. So in this first 6 months, this fund has maintained pretty well. I think it's only dropped about $3,000. Funding continues to be low. It continues to decrease a little bit. So we got about 70 less customer donations, $200 less donated compared to the first 6 months of last calendar year. So not really a whole lot to update on that. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the program.
Any questions after reading it?
I'm good with the staff recommendation.
Okay.
So we'd be seeking a motion to maintain the current $3 water and light match. That's $2.50 for electric and 50 cents for water for every dollar donated to the Customer Helping Customers Program Fund, and a maximum matching contribution of $30,000 for fiscal 25-26.
We're going to do a motion. Yeah.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll
Commissioner
second.
Garvin and a second from Commissioner Homer. And on this one, all those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Quick. Next item is to request to set a public hearing for industrial customers. Invite Power Resource Manager Jamie Phillips to present this item. Thank you.
Good evening. Staff is seeking commission direction to schedule a public hearing for August 19th, 2025 to consider adjustments to the Cascade Steel Rolling Mills and the Airgas USA LLC industrial schedules and publish public notice. At the hearing, staff will propose adjustments to the rate period high water mark amounts that are allocated to McMinnville's two industrial customers for the BPA fiscal year 2026 through 2028 rate period in an amount proportional to the change in McMinnville's rate period high water mark. The rate period high water mark represents the maximum planned amount of power that a customer can purchase at the tier 1 rates for the fiscal year. And the proposed changes in rate period high water marks they'll be increasing, resulting from an increase in the size of the forecasted federal output for the next 3 years. Additionally, as part of, as mentioned earlier, and as part of McMinnville's electric cost of service study, our consultant Utility Financial Solutions will be reviewing and recalculating the distribution charge that we include in the industrial customers' bills. The distribution charge serves to recover allocated costs to Cascade and Airgas for McMinnville's capital investments, depreciation, and O&M expenses for those customers. Any necessary adjustments to the industrial distribution charges will also be proposed at that public hearing. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jamie? No.
So we seeking a commission motion to set a public hearing for August 19th, 2025 at 5 p.m. To consider industrial schedules and direct staff to publish notice.
So moved.
Okay.
Motion from Commissioner Elmer and a second from Commissioner Garvin. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Jamie. Next item is a request to set a public hearing for water rates. Invite utility rate analyst Trina McManus to present this item.
Yes, another public hearing. This one is for water rates. We did complete a cost of service study for water rates last year. Utility Financial Solutions also performed that cost of service analysis. So at the hearing, we will be recommending year 2 of that rate design that was completed. We did adopt 5% overall increases for water rates last year, and that will also be the recommendation this year. During the public hearing in September, staff will revisit the cost of service results, and we will discuss that rate design for year 2 at that time. So this evening, I am requesting that the commission direct staff to advertise and open a rate hearing on September 16th, 2025 at 5 p.m. to establish or change water rates.
Thank you, Trina. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Garvin and second from Commissioner Elmer. Did you want to read anything more?
I
than
think,
that? I think she covered it all.
Voice the motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Felt like I left you out there.
No,
Next item is Zone 2 Extension Agreement. Invite E&O Director James Burt.
James Burke, Engineering and Operations Director. I also have Steve Wendell. He's our Civil Engineering Supervisor here tonight. We're here to talk about the water extension agreement between Holt Holdings, also referred to as Holt Homes, and McMinnville Water and Light. So this is a little unique because we don't typically bring extension agreements to the commission, but this is a different one. So this is for Zone 2, pressure Zone 2 for water. A lot of this work is to be done on our existing infrastructure. So up in the Fox Ridge reservoir area. So we have a pump building up there, and then they install some pumps and other equipment in there to push water over to that Zone 2 so they can build their homes over there. So what we're asking for commission tonight is to authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the agreement and initiate this agreement with Holt Homes to proceed forward. If you have questions on this, we can kind of go into some details. The extension agreement's attached to it. I'm not sure if you have questions on that or want me to go into more detail on that, but I can in regards to that.
No, I'm just happy to see that we're kind of held harmless if they perform or not for the grant, we're gonna get paid as water and light, and it's on them to perform for the grant.
Yeah, both Stan and Steve put a lot of work into it to make sure the contract itself, the agreement's good. So, and I know the developer wants to move forward pretty quickly. They're out there right now working on the zone for Zone 1. So,
Yeah, I know.
what's that?
Trees.
The trees.
We don't know.
Yeah, we know where they're at. Thank you for all your work. I'm good with it. Anybody else? It's been on it for a while, so, okay.
All right, so staff is looking for a motion to approve the water extension agreement for the water pump station and transmission main improvements only with Holt Holdings Oregon LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, contract number Z2 2025 to provide finished water to water pressure Zone 2 and authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Garvin and then Commissioner Elmer is the second. Any other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so John has provided us with his general manager report. I don't know if there's any highlights that you wanted to go over.
No.
Nope. Any questions from the commission?
We intend to backfill that engineering technician.
Yes.
Other than that, nice thorough report. Thank you.
Perfect. Right. Any additional questions or comments from the commission? Want to say anything? Nope. All right, there are financial information included in the packet. Any questions or comments over that? Nope. Okay. We will now go into executive session. There is no further action to be taken by the commission this evening, so we will not be returning to open session. I ask General Counsel Sam Justice to please read the citation to be taken into executive session.
So we're going to enter executive section pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub F to consider information or records are exempt from public disclosure under ORS 192.345.23 revealing security measures protect individuals, buildings, property, and information. In RS 192-660 sub 2 sub B to consider matters relating to cybersecurity infrastructure and responses to cybersecurity threats. We have media here with us. They're instructed not to share anything revealed on those topics during the session. I'm not sure, I don't think we have any media. Also, we are going to close the open meeting, going into a closed session, and we'll eventually adjourn the meeting in the closed session so that we can go out of the open meeting.
So Trina, I think there's something to eat
Okay.
if you want to take a quick break and something.
Sure.
Yes, there is food.
Okay. Perfect.
Awesome.